Jersey, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got him. It's a sack.
Sixers.
Oh, baby.
And Flyers. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Josh Hennig.
It's the Thursday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app is free to take the First Bank of Sea Isle City. Man, it feels like we've been waiting and waiting for something to happen, and now we just got to wait another basically 24 hours until we find some answers, hopefully, to what is going on with the Eagles' future. We'll get into all that and more this hour on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press will join me coming up in less than 20 minutes from now, as we got the news earlier today that, well, not just earlier today. It started last night and it started matriculating, we'll use the term throughout the day, that basically Nick Sirianni's future looks like it's going to come down to a Friday meeting with Jeffrey Lurie. Now, according to Diana Rossini, Sirianni and Howie Roseman were together basically yesterday into the evening, basically preparing a list of coaches and trying to see what a revamped coaching staff could turn into. But then this afternoon, Adam Schefter dropped this nugget on SportsCenter, and I thought this explains why Sirianni and Roseman were having the meetings and conversations they were yesterday.
There still is the meeting that remains between Nick Sirianni and the Eagles owner, Jeffrey Lurie. My understanding is that meeting would occur on Friday, tomorrow. And until that meeting happens, and until we know exactly what Jeffrey Lurie thinks after hearing from Nick Sirianni, nothing is fully certain there in Philadelphia.
So if we put the pieces together, we find out that the puzzle pieces add up to a picture. What is that picture? The picture is that tomorrow is the day of reckoning. Tomorrow, Jeffrey Lurie and Nick Sirianni are going to have a meeting of the minds. And Jeffrey Lurie is basically going to determine if the game plan that Sirianni is handing him for the offseason is something that he wants to do moving forward. Now, the last time one of these kind of meetings happened, it ended in someone getting fired. Remember, when you go back to 2020, Doug Peterson was not on the firing block initially. Doug Peterson was a guy who was looked at as, hey, it was a bad year. Things went sideways. Let's try to fix this offseason. You're a Super Bowl winning head coach. But then when Doug met with the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, and basically put his foot down on wanting certain coaches versus others, that was when the owner of the Eagles said he had enough, basically. There was a huge breakup over the coaches that Doug wanted to continue with, and the owner saying, look, I think what you were doing is not working. And that was basically the beginning of the end for Doug, was the fact that he went to a meeting with the owner of the Eagles, and the owner said, I don't like your game plan. I don't like what you're bringing me. So now we fast forward from after the 2020 season in January 2021, we fast forward to now January of 2024 after the 2023 season. And there's a little deja vu here. There's a little bit of, hey, we've seen this scenario play out before. So for me, I have a concern about what Sirianni is going to go into this meeting with the owner, and what is he going to say? What is his presentation to the Eagles organization? Because it sounds like to me, based on the reporting out there, that Nick Sirianni's future will be decided tomorrow. More from ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter this afternoon on SportsCenter.
That's a key meeting with an owner who in the past hasn't always been patient. And there are people wondering what Jeffrey Lurie will say and do in response to a season that crashed and burned late. But the feeling within the building has been that they want Nick Sirianni to stay. We heard the players come out and speak out forcefully in his defense yesterday. Now we wait to see if the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, agrees with the players.
It's a big what if, because as Schefter laid out, there's really only one head coach that Jeffrey Lurie has been patient with. There's only one head coach that he had a long-term relationship with, and that was Andy Reid. Ray Rhodes, Chip Kelly, and Doug Peterson were all three of them did not last more than 5 years. Now, Chip and Ray Rhodes, they both were fewer years than Doug Peterson, but apparently winning a championship only gets you a couple extra years in this organization unless your name is Andy Reid. Now, there's a lot of people who are much more dialed into the Eagles and much more intimately familiar with the Eagles' history that would say that there were other reasons why the Andy Reid era lasted as long as it did. You know, there's always been a conversation about, you know, how Joe Banner and Jeffrey Lurie had a very good relationship, and Banner was the voice of reason in Lurie's ear. And part of the reason why Howie Roseman has this job is because Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are, you know, basically, you know, kindred spirits almost. They're guys who have a connection and a relationship, and Howie has shown himself to be trustworthy to Lurie for many years now. And so it's interesting that the Diana Rossini reporting is that Howie and Sirianni are working together on coaches. Whereas it seems like, if you go by the reporting, that Doug Peterson was dead set on certain coaches and didn't want to take any input from anybody else. Now, part of the reason why Doug didn't want input was because, remember, if you know, John McMullen mentioned this during the Sports Back with Mike Gill today on 97.3 ESPN. And this is not the first time this has been brought up. John McMullen and others have reported this in the past, that Jeffrey Lurie initially thought the Eagles should get rid of Frank Reich, that he looked at the 2016 season as basically a failure, and Doug fought hard for Frank to keep the job. Don't forget, the Eagles blocked John DeFilippo from leaving the team initially because it was considered a lateral move that he was going to take, and he didn't leave for an extra year. So there was an investment by Doug Peterson in his initial coaching staff. So when the owner and the front office turned to him and said, I think the problem is your coaching staff, there was a part of Doug that couldn't see the forest for the trees and said, the last time you told me the coaching staff was a problem, it didn't work out. And that's probably part of the reason why Doug fought so hard about not changing his mind on his coaching staff. Now, you look in Jacksonville right now, Doug fired some important people on his coaching staff down there after this year. Doug, whose own team struggled down the stretch and failed to make the postseason, he is now going through the process in Jacksonville of cleaning house, changing some of his coaches. So now bring it back to Sirianni. Sirianni may not be fighting for his guys the way that Doug did. And that might be what saves him his job. That he is not so stubborn and hard-headed that he's not willing to take instruction or anyone else giving him advice. Now, again, some of this is conjecture. I have no, perfect, special, unique insider information on any of this. But what I do know for a fact is that if Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni are pulling their resources together to find, okay, let's find the best lineup of coaches who can replace some of the guys we have now, you have the opportunity to now bring a game plan to the owner that is going to be much more successful than what Doug Peterson did 3 years ago. Just something to think about here. 69403-0973. That's the text board. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. See how Shaner in EHT says, Josh, my biggest issue ending the Eagles' year was care and pride. The fans drop hundreds of dollars to attend games, make a day of it, and at times freeze in the rain. It seems the season was phoned in. The fans don't phone it in. They get a lot of support to try to the fans give a lot of support, and we expect the Eagles best. Respect us, have some pride. Many can't afford to go, but once every few years. It's from Shaner and EHT. Shaner, it's an interesting perspective, and it's not that you're wrong, because I don't think that your perspective is wrong, but it's like many times in life, it's the idea that there's multiple sides to the same equation. It's not that one person is wrong and one person is right. It's that there's multiple ways of looking at the same situation. And there's tons of analogies and ways of going about it, but just to simplify it, for the Eagles specifically, I think that is not as simple as the fans paid money, the fans deserve a better product. I don't think it's that simple, because if it was that simple, then it would have been fixed. I don't think it was just I don't think the fans disrespected the players disrespected the fans. I don't think the players were purposely trying to tank the season. These guys have a lot of pride. They have a lot of desire to not just earn their paycheck this year, but set the groundwork so they can earn their paycheck for years to come. So for me, I look at the situation like this. I don't think the Eagles didn't care. I don't think they didn't have pride. But I do think that their own pride, maybe their own ego, and their emotional elements got the best of them and clouded their vision and tilted them in a direction to not be successful. Okay. It's like if you go into a meeting for your job and you're going to meet with your boss, and your boss and you were talking about having a pay raise, and you have the whole thing mapped out in your head. And then halfway through the conversation, your boss spins something your direction, topical, whether it's professional, personal, something to do with the way you do your job, whatever it may be. And they can say something or do something that's going to take you off of your game. And you may not know how to respond. You may not know how to react to that curveball being thrown at you. I think the Eagles got a curveball this year. Something happened either in the locker room or with the coaches that set this team to go sideways, and they never rebounded because they were so entrenched. They were so dead set on this is the way we do it, like Sirianni said, that they never were able to adjust. So I don't think they didn't care with the fans. I think that they lost their way. Over on the text board at 609-403-0973, Diamondback Derek says, I read today that the so-called, basically, I think Diamondback Derek is basically complaining about Mike McCarthy. Okay. Basically that he's saying that the Cowboys situation is bad as the Eagles. Derek, I love you, man, but you got to work on what you're texting in because it's not even fully English. I think your talk to text hates you. But basically, it sounds like he's saying that he doesn't like the fact that Jerry Jones took 3 days and decided to keep Mike McCarthy. And he basically says that the Cowboys are going to win the playoffs with McCarthy, and the situation is as bad as the Eagles. That part I can agree with. Diamondback Derek throwing me a curveball here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank Seattle. We'll talk more Eagles, Cowboys, NFL playoffs with Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press next on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow night on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Maxey steps back, three-point shot up. It's good. Maxey delivering. The Sixers take the lead, and the crowd is absolutely stunned.
It's Sixers Magic tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Sixers basketball all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia 76ers basketball. 97.3 ESPN.
If you reside in a residential property in New Jersey built before 1978, your home may have lead paint hazards. Lead paint can be especially dangerous to children under the age of 6. New Jersey's lead remediation and abatement program might be able to help. The program funds community-based groups to conduct lead-safe repairs for eligible households. To learn more, visit leadabatement.nj.gov.
It seems like everywhere you look right now, someone is sick. This year, prepare your family for airborne invaders like bacteria, pollen, and yes, germs with Navage Nasal Care. Navage flushes ultra-pure, refreshing saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out of the other nostril. Navage sucks out viruses, dust, and other airborne particles, all the stuff that gets trapped in your nose, making you miserable. Don't get caught empty-handed this winter. Get Navage, the drug-free solution that helps you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier. Even better, Navage is HSA, FSA eligible. So Navage is a great way to spend those funds before they expire. Don't wait a minute longer. Buy Navage today and you'll breathe easier knowing you're putting your funds to good use. Navage is available online at Navage.com or Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the January winter sale, January 12th through the 22nd, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $31.14. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
I hate free money and finishing first. Said no one ever. At Raceway Kia, you'll finish first with 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 90 days. And right now, you can lease a rugged new 2023 Kia Sorento for only $199 a month. Stop by Raceway Kia today or visit online at racewaykia.com. That's 131-24 OAC with KMF. 3 years, 30,000 miles for $49.95 to its signing. Tax, title, license, and fees extra. Security deposit waived. Stock number PG248651.
Hey folks, Rich Eisen here. Get ready because the football playoffs are here and the guys on my show are having a blast picking their teams and stats on Prize Picks. Plus, with basketball season going strong, they're able to pick combo projections across both sports. Join them on prizepicks.com/primetime. Easy gameplay and an enormous selection of players and stat options are what they tell me makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Brockman is loving that aspect. He's hooked. And all you need to do is visit prizepicks.com/primetime and use code primetime. That's code primetime at prizepicks.com/primetime for a first deposit match up to $100. Don't be left on the sideline this basketball season. Go to Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card good for use at Vincenzo's Ristorante in Galloway for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Let's dig deeper on what's going on around the NFL. Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press. He is back with us here this week here on 97.3 ESPN as we are counting down to when Nick Sirianni and Jeffrey Lurie finally meet. And Rob, first of all, welcome back to the show. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing much better than Eagles fans, Josh. It's 7 more games left in the NFL season, and man, there's a ton of coaching decisions that have to be made around the league, and I'm just blown away that the Eagles are one of the teams that also have to make that kind of decision right now.
Well, that's where I want to start with you because, you know, you saw a lot of different versions of the Eagles in your time in Philadelphia, and based on all the reporting out there, the puzzle I've put together is that Sirianni is going to show up tomorrow. And if the owner likes his plan for the coach staff moving forward, he's going to say, go ahead. And if he doesn't, he's going to basically treat him like he did with Doug Peterson 3 years ago. Because I remember the whole thing about Doug was that Doug wanted to keep certain coaches and the owner didn't. And it feels like Sirianni's almost in a similar situation where he has to walk in, Rob, and basically have the right answer to the test.
Yeah, and I think that's where it stands based on what the widely assumed right now is that Nick has to go in there and lay out a plan for the future and what he's going to do with the coordinator position. His resume speaks for itself as far as getting to the playoffs 3 years in a row, what he was able to accomplish, double-digit win seasons 2 years in a row, took Jalen Hurts to MVP runner-up status last year, but the regression is clear this year. The team took a step backward. They collapsed. It was maybe almost a historic collapse over the last 7 weeks of the season, losing 6 out of 7. And I feel like this is going to be similar to the Doug Peterson situation, except that Doug had won the Super Bowl and Doug wanted to have say over who his coordinators are, whereas Nick Sirianni understands or should understand, Josh, he hasn't won a Super Bowl. He shouldn't have the same kind of clout that Doug maybe thought he wielded but didn't because ultimately he was gone. And I think if Nick wants to continue as head coach of the Eagles, it's going to have to be, yes, Mr. Lurie, yes, Mr. Roseman. And we know that everybody talks about how he's got this incredible Rolodex of contacts, and nobody has a Rolodex anymore. You got your contacts in your cell phone and everything else, but he knows everybody, right? And Nick, and they said the same thing about Peterson. He didn't have an extensive list of candidates to be coordinators. But I think what you're going to see is Nick Sirianni is a coach that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman handpicked, just like Doug, just like they have always done in this organization, is go out and bring in young, except for the Chip Kelly experiment, young assistants who are going to cede control and power to the front office and to Howie Roseman and his people. And that's why I don't think they can make a change, because if they do, it's going to be another similar coach that they bring in, whether it's Dave Canales here in Tampa, whether it's Bobby Slowick, Brian Callahan, or any of these other hot coordinators. I don't think Ben Johnson's going to have a bunch of options to choose from. So he would be a name at the top of the list. I think ultimately Nick Sirianni stays. The Eagles bring in a new defensive coordinator. And also, Josh, they know how that went down. The fact that Nick Sirianni said he made that decision doesn't change anyone's mind or opinion or make you believe that probably came from up above. So they know they can't punish or fire him for making that defensive coordinator change if they were the ones to tell him to make it?
It makes me ask this question, Rob, and I want to know from you, because I asked this question this week about Sirianni. Sirianni doesn't feel like he's someone who can be successful without the right supporting cast. To me, he's like a good but not great quarterback. He needs the talent around him to elevate. I go with coaching. He was very successful with Gannon and Steichen. He loses those guys, and then things start to slip. Is he the kind of person who just needs certain people on his staff to help him be successful?
It's a possibility that that's the case, because you look at the drop-off from Steichen to Brian Johnson, and you look at the drop-off from Gannon defensively, who, by the way, everybody in Philadelphia said good riddance to Jonathan Gannon when he left, and all he had was number one pass defense and almost a record number of sacks, and none of the play, they didn't match any of those numbers this year.
Right.
So there are coaches who are highly dependent upon the assistant coaches that they have. I'm not ready to make that determination about Nick Sirianni until I see him coach another season, perhaps with another coordinator, perhaps with two other coordinators. And of course, if they have success, then you go, well, maybe it is the coordinators. I'm just not ready to say that he's a guy who can't make decisions on his own or good decisions on his own. I know they struggled offensively his first year when he was the play caller, and then he passed that on to Shane Steichen, and that kind of and then they kind of took off went from 2-5 to 9-8 and made it to the playoffs, and then we know what they did last year. That is one more indication of where you're coming from and what you're saying there, Josh. So I think that you make valid points, strong, and it's a good argument. Not there yet. I want to see what he can do to fix this. I think he's going to get that opportunity. I would be surprised at this point if they make that change. We'll find out soon enough, but it's shocking that we even got to this point. That to me, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. That loss on Monday was just one of the worst losses in the team's recent history, and as somber of a locker room as I've ever seen covering the Eagles.
He's senior NFL writer for the Associated Press, Rob Maaddi, joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Thursday night. Rob, speaking of shocking from Monday night, one more on the Eagles I want to touch on with you, because the defense got worse down the stretch. And it's looking very likely that the Eagles are going to have to basically retool the defense again. Probably Fletcher Cox, he's probably gone after this year because they want to give the younger guys more playing time. The linebacker situation has to be addressed in some capacity. Safety has to be addressed. James Bradbury, just he doesn't have it anymore for whatever reason. So for the Eagles, could they retool enough this offseason between a new coordinator and some new players to get them back on track?
They could, and they certainly have shown in the past that they can make a giant leap, right? When you go look at Doug Peterson from year 1 to year 2, and you go from 7-9 to Super Bowl champion, or you go from 9-8 to 14-3 last year and get to the doorstep of winning a Super Bowl. But they are going to have to make tough decisions, and they're going to have to maybe make a shift in organizational philosophy when it comes to the defense. When you look at that back seven, they got some holes and flaws and areas they got to fix. And I'm not going to say that TJ Edwards letting him go would have been the answer, but they got to take a hard look at that linebacker position. They got to look at guys who are game changers and playmakers who can play at linebacker. And then they got to make some decisions on highly paid, overpriced, underachieving members of their secondary, Darius Slay and James Bradbury. Neither one of them looked like they had any interest in tackling, and both of them were certainly on the decline. And they're going to have to obviously make tough, hard decisions on Fletcher Cox. And Brandon Graham said he wants to play one more year and have it be a farewell season, farewell tour. Maybe there's a role for him as a veteran mentor at a close to a veteran's minimum, as much as he wants to stay. But they got to look at that. Can they retool? Can they do it? I think they can, but it's not going to be easy. And then you look around at some of the younger up-and-coming teams, like look at the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions, right? In the North, both are younger and certainly having success. Tampa got much younger. I know Baker's a veteran, but he's only 28. But they got much younger and had like an 80 million plus cap hit, dead cap money, and still found a way to get to where they are right now. So the competition is going to be a little bit more difficult. I will say this, the best thing that happened to the Philadelphia Eagles this week was the Dallas Cowboys deciding to keep Mike McCarthy as the head coach.
Well, you led me right to the next question I have for you. How shocking is it that McCarthy is still in Dallas? Because at least my perception of it, Rob, is, man, Jerry Jones seems to care more about being comfortable than winning football games. Because I would have thought that a guy who's 80-something years old who wants to win one more championship, he would just do anything it takes to win. And it feels like Jerry is more interested in, well, I like this guy.
I'm sure there was a conversation among the Cowboys brass regarding Bill Belichick. And I feel like that decision to retain Mike McCarthy came because Bill may have, not Bill necessarily, but his people expressed that they have no interest in going to Dallas. When we saw how that went down on Sunday and they just absolutely were annihilated, and even Dan Quinn, who's getting interviews for head coaching jobs, like I wouldn't be giving him any interview after how his defense folded and quit in the playoffs. That was atrocious. The thought for everybody was Bill Belichick's the only person who can save the Dallas Cowboys. Bill Belichick clearly may not be interested in a big market like Dallas and working for Jerry Jones. Otherwise, I think Jerry at age 81, knowing his opportunities and his window is closing, would have paid whatever it takes for Bill. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's so much it was a Cowboys decision and a Jerry decision as it was Bill said, I'm not interested. But that said, if I'm Jerry Jones, I still would have looked at Mike Vrabel, looked at Pete Carroll, looked at someone, because Mike McCarthy has reached this point 3 years in a row, 12 wins in a regular season, and can't do a darn thing in the playoffs. Change needs to be made. That's as far as he's going to take you. And I think that was a poor decision by Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys to retain him. I know that Dak Prescott spoke up for McCarthy immediately when first asked about him, completely unlike the quarterback in Philadelphia who deflected and even 2 days later still wasn't as strong in his support of his head coach as Dak was. I don't know how much that played into Jerry's decision. I'm sure it did. But I think that you don't have to worry about the Cowboys. Whatever that, what are we at? The drought for the Super Bowl 1995 season, 1996. Yeah, it's going to be extended. It'll hit 30 at this point.
You mentioned Pete Carroll. Let me ask you about him real quick. Why isn't his name out there for jobs? I mean, I feel like for example, if Nick Sirianni got fired tomorrow, let's say, I would be on the phone calling Pete Carroll immediately if I'm the Eagles. You know, I'm surprised Pete has an interview for the Chargers job. All the success he had at USC. He ran that USC team like an NFL team, basically, in Los Angeles. Like, why isn't this guy interviewing for every job?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think that Pete may be wanting to take a step back for a year. He's a young 72. Josh, yeah. We see him full of energy and running around on the sidelines. Like I feel that if Pete took a year off and was the advisor in Seattle, he's got that role, whatever it may be, and then looked at the opportunities next year and said, I got 5 more years left in me at 73 to 78 or whatever he wanted to decide. He, to me, would be a fit for someone like the Eagles, for someone like the Cowboys, who need a change but have a strong championship contending kind of roster. That's why it surprises me with Belichick in Atlanta. I can't imagine he's going to go in there and take that team to a Super Bowl type level very quickly. Yeah. And I kind of feel like his decision and his thought process there is get away from the media, get away from the scrutiny. Let's ease our way to Don Shula's record that's within grasp in the next couple of years in Atlanta. He's got to find himself a quarterback. But there's the Russell Wilson's going to be available and a few others for sure.
Yeah, Russell Wilson. That's not a marriage made in heaven for sure. Wilson and Belichick. That's two very different individuals.
How about Carson Wentz and Bill Belichick?
That might work better, honestly.
That'd be interesting. That would be interesting to see.
Like, no offense to Russ. Like, I feel like I saw Wentz play that Rams game. Yeah. Wentz still has that competitiveness in him, I feel like Russ is just kind of like going through the motions. He's just kind of like, yeah, I'm a quarterback. I play in the NFL. I want to, like, Carson Wentz at least looks like physically like I still want to compete.
Yeah. He was out there doing all he can in that Rams.
Yes.
To get them to double-digit wins. Maybe Bill looks at a guy like that. I don't know that Justin Fields is someone that would intrigue him in Atlanta. And Jimmy Garoppolo, he's got the history, but can you go there counting on Jimmy to even stay healthy? If Bill Belichick's goals are 15 wins to pass Don Shula, he can do that with a combination of whoever it may be at quarterback. If his goal is to compete for that 7th championship as a head coach and prove, hey, it wasn't all Tom Brady, I could still win, he's got a whole lot of work to do if, in fact, he does end up in Atlanta. And it's interesting that it doesn't look like he's got all these options at this point.
I don't know. Maybe he was expecting some of the other jobs to open up and they didn't, or, I mean, who knows? I mean, I do know that there's a lot of speculation about Belichick and the Eagles because, Jeffrey Lurie and his New England connections, and apparently Howie Roseman and Belichick have a mutual admiration society going on. So maybe there's part of Belichick just sitting around to see if Sirianni gets fired. I don't know.
It is interesting that Bill always points out he credits Howie and the organizational structure. That to me would be a complete shocker, given what Bill's accomplished, the power that he brings, the clout that he has. Like, Jeffrey would have to put Howie in the broom closet again if he were to go out there and bring in Bill Belichick.
Well, if you ask Julian Edelman, he thinks that Roseman and because he said Julian Edelman did that he thinks Belichick and Roseman would work well together.
I don't know how well Julian Edelman has followed the inner workings of the Eagles organizational structure.
Not well.
that certainly is not one that I could. Man, the narratives that are going to be leaked to the media if something like that were to happen, and it blows my mind. I can't. It'd be fun. That's for it. Might make me come to Philly a whole lot more just to be around. Yeah, my goal would be to try and get Bill Belichick to chuckle every now and then. I saw somebody put a compilation of there. I don't know who the reporter is in New England, but he would always ask this offbeat question. He just would always ask Bill these strange offbeat questions, and it was a compilation of this guy asking these weird questions and Bill Belichick chuckling and giving him some sort of response. So somebody's got, I don't know who would fill that role in Philadelphia.
A couple more for Rob Maaddi, senior NFL writer for the Associated Press here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh, Hennig hanging out with you on Game Night. Rob, down there in Tampa where you are, the Bucs did win. They're going the next round against the Lions. Why is Baker Mayfield not getting enough credit? Like, obviously the whole CJ Gardner-Johnson, even like his comments about Baker were hilarious because he doesn't even know he's on the team. That was funny.
It was just so stupid. It was idiotic that he mentions how great their receivers are, and he mentions a guy in Russell Gage who hasn't played all season. Bro, you watching tape? I thought Baker gave a perfect response to that one.
He did, but that's just one example. It feels like a lot of people are looking at Baker, and they just don't want to give this guy respect. And I don't get it, Rob. I don't get why we can't look at this guy and be like, look, he did a better job at succeeding, being the guy, the successor to Tom Brady in Tampa than Mac Jones did in New England.
Oh, 100%. He stepped in. And of course, he stepped into a situation where he has Mike Evans. He has Chris Godwin. He's got Tristan Wirfs on the offensive line. They got a weapon in Rachaad White, but they also brought in a young offensive coordinator in Dave Canales, who has done a great job with quarterbacks. Look at what he did with Geno Smith last year and what he was able to accomplish with Russell Wilson previously. And Baker Mayfield has probably all around his best season in his first year with a new team, with this new offensive coordinator. Josh, I think to answer your question, why doesn't he get the credit he deserves? I think part of it is Baker's personality when he first started in the NFL. I think that rubbed people the wrong way, and people hold that against him. He's not the same guy. He's grown up. He's matured. Yeah, you see him on the field having fun after touchdowns and what he's doing on the sideline with his teammates, but he's really embraced that leadership role. He's shown a ton of maturity in that locker room. Guys kind of gravitate toward him, and it's been fun to watch up close because you look at a guy, and I'm a firm believer in second chances and third chances, and I feel like those who don't want to give people credit are in that camp of this guy is one way, and you don't believe in someone turning who they are, maturing, growing up. Like, I'm not the same person I was when I was 28. I'm sure Baker Mayfield isn't the same person he was 5 years ago when he first came into this league. Last year had to humble him, no doubt. To see how things unfolded in Cleveland, to have no success in Carolina and be dumped, then to end up going to the Rams, and learning a little bit under Sean McVay and being able to carry that and have some positivity going into the offseason, I think he grew a lot from that experience. And for people who don't want to give him credit, that's on them. I think people deserve second chances, and it's nice to see when they take it and run with it.
Rob, before I let you go, favorite game of the weekend playoff games for you? Like, what is the one you're most intrigued by or the most fascinated by?
I want to say Buccaneers Lions, because I do think Tampa can kind of pull off this upset. They match up very well against them. But Buffalo, Kansas City, it's the third opportunity for Josh Allen and the Bills against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs. This time they got him in Buffalo. It's not on the road. It's Patrick's first road playoff game. I sure hope that Taylor Swift isn't going to be there, and that'll make it a more enjoyable watching experience. But I think that's going to be a very, very interesting game on Sunday night. I could see Kansas City pulling that one out, but I love what the Bills have been able to do since they lost to the Eagles. They got a new offensive coordinator, and it didn't take any growing pains or anything along those lines. They were able to hit the ground running, and here they are 6 wins later in this position, hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. And I picked them to come out of the AFC when the playoff bracket came out. And I thought that they'll win this game, and they'll find a way to knock off Baltimore in Baltimore, and then to be a Buffalo San Fran Super Bowl. So, of course, I had Dallas and Cincinnati before the season, so that tells you what I know.
Well, I do agree with you that it'll be a Buffalo-Baltimore conference final. Now, my preseason pick for the Super Bowl was actually San Fran, Baltimore. So,
you're still running. Yeah, you're still alive.
I'm still alive. It doesn't mean I still think that, though. I might still be wrong. There's certainly a chance that the 49ers don't even make it again anyway. So, I mean, how many times has Kyle Shanahan been to the conference finals at this point?
Yeah, and I listen, I feel like Green Bay played the perfect game last week to beat Dallas. I don't know that they have that in them again. I think San Francisco is loaded. San Francisco's got on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Had a chance to speak to a couple of those guys last week, George Kittle and Fred Warner. I know Brock, and this is a team that really benefited from the bye, and Christian McCaffrey, of course, and barring injury, barring anyone knocking Brock Purdy out in the first quarter, they're better equipped to handle that with Sam Darnold than Josh Johnson. I think they have an easy go of it against the Green Bay Packers. I think both games on Saturday, Josh, are going to be double-digit wins for the number 1 seeds, and then both games on Sunday will be close, edge-of-the-seat kind of games that can come down to final few minutes.
I'm really hoping we get a Lions-49ers matchup just because the extreme difference of those teams and coaches, it would just be amazing theater. I mean, Dan Campbell looks like he's the WWE heavyweight champion of the world. and Kyle Shanahan is like Mr. Boy Wonder Genius football guy. And it's like just the idea of those two guys on opposing sidelines to me would be an amazing story. And it's realistic. Yeah, the Lions on paper might not be a good matchup, but they're a weird team, and Rob, styles make fights.
Yeah, and I'll say this: if the Lions make it to the Super Bowl, the over/under on idiotic comments by C.J. Gardner-Johnson just on media night alone, that Monday extravaganza, I think I would set it at 11.5. Like he will say the stupidest things that can be bulletin board material for everyone. They'll face they could face Baltimore, and he'll say something as stupid as Lamar Jackson's running back playing quarterback, whatever it is. I don't know, but
he'll say something about J.K. Dobbins. That's what he'll say.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun to watch. And of course, Dan Campbell and the biting off the kneecaps and everything else that what he brings. It will be intriguing. That's for sure.
At Rob Maaddi over on Twitter X platform. He's the AP senior NFL writer joining me here on Game Night on 97.3 ES. Don't forget the AP Pro Football Podcast. Like, subscribe, share it wherever you get your podcasts, and Faith on the Field Saturday and Sunday mornings right here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, do you have your guest lined up yet for the weekend show?
Byron Young, the young linebacker from the LA Rams.
Okay.
So he's going to be on this weekend. I hope everyone enjoyed C.J. Stroud last week.
Loved it.
Because on Faith on the Field, when you have C.J. Stroud on, we allow him to talk about his faith. We don't edit it out like they did. Did you see that clip?
I saw it.
Yeah, they also edited it out on NBC last week after the game, which was pretty interesting. So yeah, we don't do that with CJ.
I just want to say really quick. Everyone complains about ESPN and their wokeness and everything. That wasn't ESPN censoring CJ Stroud. That was NBC. That's a completely different company.
That was NBC on Saturday.
Let people know, this ain't a one company problem, this stuff. Just saying.
That's a great point, Josh.
Rob, always appreciate you jumping on. Take care, my friend.
Take care. Have a great weekend.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll wrap up the hour coming up on the other side. Don't forget Flyers hockey tonight versus the Stars on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Listen as Tim Saunders and Todd Fedor bring you all the exciting play-by-play action. The shot, down the rebound, they score! And who else but Cam Atkinson? It's Flyers Star tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Flyers hockey all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia Flyers hockey, 97.3 ESPN.
January is no time for the same old meals. HelloFresh is here to kickstart 2024 with enticing flavors and fresh ingredients paired with easy-to-follow recipes and delivered to your door. They'll keep your taste buds guessing with their most expansive menu yet. Over 45 delicious recipes to choose from each week. Right now, get free breakfast for life with code Radio Breakfast at HelloFresh.com/Radio Breakfast. That's one free breakfast item per box while subscription is active with code Radio Breakfast at HelloFresh.com/Radio Breakfast.
New Jersey's got a lot of winter wow. Wows to knock your ski socks off. Wows to warm your soul. And wows to blow your mind. Find your wow at visitnj.org. New Jersey, Little state, lot of wow.
We all make resolutions this time of year, and let's face it, most of them won't stick. But here's one that's not only easy to keep, but will help you feel healthier all year long. Navage. Navage provides quick, drug-free nasal relief by washing saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out of the other nostril. This time of year, when everyone is sick, Navage helps by sucking out germs, bacteria, and viruses trapped in our noses that cause us to feel miserable. And come allergy season, it does the same with dust, pollen, and other allergens. And unlike medications that can take time to help, if they're effective at all, Navage helps treat congestion symptoms in seconds flat, without drugs. This New Year's, resolve to use drug-free Navage to help you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier all year long. Ask for Navage at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, or find us online at Navage.com. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Did you miss year-end pricing? Not if you get to Matt Blatt Nissan. Year-end savings are extended. That means you can buy a brand new Nissan with $299 down and just $299 per month. That's less than a week of groceries.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Brand new 2024 Nissan Versa S for under 20 grand. And you can own it for just $299 per month. This is not a lease, program, or used car. Plus AJ the Trade Man wants to buy your vehicle today. So you can drive your new Nissan even with 0 down and 0% financing on every new Rogue or Frontier in stock, but only at MattBlattNissan.com. Rate qualifications exist with approved credit. $27.78 per thousand finance. 2023 Nissan Rogues and Frontiers. Not all will qualify. Go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details or call 844-917-4758. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, and taxes. VIN RL 835598. Versa S MSRP 19465. 75 months at 5.64%. Expires 2/4/24. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike. Egg Harbor Township.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-813-8757 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-813-8757. That's 800-813-8757. What do you have to lose? Call 800-813-8757. Again, 800-813-8757.
Imagine getting ahead of your irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C by treating it with Linzess. Then you could start proactively managing your constipation with belly pain and get ahead of your symptoms. Talk to your doctor about Linzess, linaclotide. Linzess is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually.
Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling.
Imagine, what could relief from IBS-C mean for you? Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Hey Phillies fans, the countdown to pitchers and catchers reporting is officially underway. This March, Phillies Sports Trips wants you to join them as they escape the cold weather and travel to spring training in Clearwater Beach, Florida. This incredible package includes round-trip airfare, hotel, tickets to 2 Phillies games, an all-inclusive tailgate, a yacht party, and so much more. You're not going to want to miss this experience. Don't wait to book because these spots will sell out. Visit PhilliesSportsTrips.com to book your trip today.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
I want to get the call from LBI's text before we get out of here. We don't have a lot of time here, but he says the Eagles situation is complicated because all these things showed up at one time. First, Howie Roseman and messing up the defensive personnel, how he can't pay everyone, how he usually figures stuff out and can fix it. The other part is he says that Hurts regressed, got hurt, and wasn't the same, and Nick couldn't adjust his system. And he says, when you pay a guy a big paycheck, he may not be the guy. It's a problem. And Cole from LB, I just want to say that I think that part of what you said is a misperception of things. Because one, Sirianni doesn't call the plays from what we understand. It's Brian Johnson this year. It was Shane Steichen last year. So it's hard for me to sit here and criticize Sirianni for not running the offense a certain way, not doing certain things, or not, giving Hurts better options. Now, if you want to criticize Sirianni for maybe not being more hands-on, or maybe the Eagles picking the wrong guy to be offensive coordinator, I think we can do that. The other side is, just because Hurts is not Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, it doesn't mean he can't be the guy. It's like the whole narrative of, Drew Brees was one of the best quarterbacks for like a 10, 15-year period. But he wasn't Manning. He wasn't Brady, right? He wasn't Aaron Rodgers. So you can have a guy who's not one of the big three and still be a winning team with a winning quarterback. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Flyers hockey next.
Hey, South Jersey, this is Billy Schweim. Tune into The Locker Room every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN. Each weekend in The Locker Room, you will get passionate sports talk from a fan's perspective, along with interviews with some of the biggest names in sports. That's every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon in The Locker Room with me, Billy Schweim, on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, because nothing could be finer than talking sports with a Schweiner.